All right, this is going to be the first episode of I don't even know what we're going to call this. This is maybe a cheeky midweeky. This is a cheeky mid-marriage. Ha ha ha. Let's just start off with the fact that Megan and we are not perfect. I'm not doing this because we have the perfect marriage. There's been, in fact, times where she's wanted to kill me, has not actually killed me, but yeah. So this is to just provide context on different seasons of your marriage. We were obviously newlyweds where I was an assistant. I went through a period of life where working at my job was awful. I hated everything about my job. Got a brand new job, was a head guy. She was pregnant. We moved to a brand new part of the world. She saw me get fired. She saw me start a new business. So we're going to kind of talk about all of those, not only today. Today's just kind of going to be a little bit of a teaser episode. Megan, what is the hardest part about being a strength and conditioning coach's wife? Or significant other, because we are going to do the husband of female strength coaches. Shout out Kenna for recommending that.
I think just the schedule of it all. You know, going into it that there's going to be maybe more commitments than having a significant other in a 9-to-5 job, but it seems like there's always something to do, especially when you have kids. The weekends, you don't realize that, oh yeah, Sunday is the day after games. It's a recovery. It's an easy day for you, but you're still gone most of the day is how it ends up. But yeah, probably just the schedule.
Within the whole schedule thing, moving, like we talked about moving, when we first met and you knew like, hey, this guy probably doesn't want to stay here as someone's assistant. I'm going to move. Other strength coaches are going to move. How did that not be a deal breaker for you and any young strength coaches that's listening to this right now, where like, hey, moving might be part of the deal. And we've talked about needing to find the right partner. Just talk about that aspect of it.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, you kind of have to know going into it, whether it's a deal breaker for you or not. If I wasn't willing to ever move and I said that I was, then that's pretty awful on my part to trick you into that.
But how did you get comfortable with it? Like,
you don't. I mean, I wasn't like, for grad school, I went out to California for 2 years. So it wasn't my first time being out of the state of Iowa or away from family. That being said, I didn't necessarily see your first job out of Iowa, since we had known each other, happening when I was 7 months pregnant, so it took a little getting used to. But you were worth the commitment.
Hey.
From the start, and I had to hold up my end of the deal and be willing to trust that it was the right place for us to be at the time.
You talked about time commitment. What about the time commitment where sometimes, maybe the significant others or the strength coaches listening can relate to this, but like how that maybe we're there physically, but like emotionally, like, okay, you can tell we're thinking about the team, or like, hey, what can I do to get this one better exercise? Because maybe that's just psychopathic me. I don't think that is. I think that's everybody. How do you handle that to then try to ground me, like to benefit that and to benefit families?
I just call you out. Like when I notice you taking notes or on your phone doing whatever, because you're just like stuck in your mode of got to think about this, then I just tell you, hey, maybe we put that away for right now or find something else to do. I feel like when you were just coaching, I don't know. I think you were pretty good about not getting in too bad of moods about a loss or whatever was going on at work. I mean, yeah, we talked about it and it's okay to have feelings about things like that, but I don't think it ever like ruined a weekend for us necessarily. Yeah.
I've talked a lot about Sundays needing to be off for the team and for coaches, so that way they can all fill their buckets up. That's something that you did kind of talk about a little bit, and something that I want you to talk about the family side of it and the importance of, truly filling up and being able to do things. Because I specifically remember like when we went to Margaret's birthday party, that buffet on Sunday after Michigan, we didn't get to really like spend time doing that. Like how you never really get to spend time with your family and how that can like maybe slowly erode things if you don't have that day to spend time as a family? I want your perspective on that.
I think just planning things that are fun to do as a family when we did have you, like saving those really exciting or fun things like going to pick pumpkins or, get-togethers with the family and whatever. But also just trying to be part of your life during the week too, I think is a bigger deal. Like, bringing the kids to the weight room when I could or to practice, especially like the spring practices. They loved running around on the field and riding the gator with you and throwing balls and trying to kick the balls from the little holders and everything. They love that stuff, and that's the stuff that they're going to remember. So I think not being like, oh, well, it's a Tuesday, we're just not going to see Justin, you don't get dad in your life today. Like, that's not how it really seemed like it ever was. So, and finding time where you get to pick the boys up from school or drop them off, or just planning it into the week. I don't think you can put all your eggs in the Sunday basket.
That's fair. That's also kind of part of the reason why once there was that coaching change at Towson and practices were going to get moved to the afternoon. And it's like, wait a minute, you're already getting me early in the morning. You're not going to get me in the afternoon too. So strength coaches out there, you got to kind of figure out what's your why and what are you willing to continue to say yes or no to? Because if you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. So keep that in the back of your mind. Sticking to the, kids coming to work. And I think that's what you should do. And that's where we're going with this next one, where Kenna and I talked about it. Work-life integration. It's not a work-life balance where, oh, I'm here. It's your family sees you at work. Your work sees you with your family. When you hear work-life integration, what does that mean to you?
I don't know. I mean, not letting one just rule over the other without reason. You have to know that there's going to be seasons that are busier at work and seasons that require you to have more time at home or in life, or where I'm going to need your support more than maybe I had in the past. And like right now, like this is a season where I'm at work technically more hours than you, but that doesn't make me less important in our role as caregivers. So just kind of feeling that way towards your significant other. But I think we've always done a good job of trying to do both and not letting, even when you're working with Iowa football and everything seems so important all of the time there, you didn't let that be the one thing in your life. We still had quality time together. You still came and hung out with family. You let me come in to the weight room to hang out with you and come to the dinners when we could and whatnot.
You've seen me at some of my lowest lows, whether it was at Iowa, towards the end of my time there, saw a couple different things at Towson, saw me get let go. What was it like being the significant other of somebody where, there's other coaches that get let go. There's other coaches where their bosses or their administration takes things out on them. How difficult was that for you to see? And then what do you then recommend our listeners and their significant others do to help mitigate it and make it as manageable as possible?
I don't know. I mean, like you said, we're no experts in how to do all of these things, but it was hard for me to just not let my feelings get hurt right alongside yours. It's like if somebody picks on your kid, you want to go, beat them up. Like that's kind of how I felt, honestly. But just trying to be as supportive as I could and remind you of all the things that you are good at, and that somebody else and how they're treating you doesn't define your value and worth.
What about the move stuff? Like, you kind of moved on from that lowest low. Okay. Moving. And we did it. We went from Iowa to Maryland. We now back here in Iowa. Why did we move back here instead of trying to get back into it? Like, what are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, we're both Midwesterners at heart, even though you grew up on the East Coast. The kind of slower pace of life, less busy, and just family values type thing. I mean, obviously my family is here in Iowa and we place a lot of value on family, and the change that has happened since being in Maryland when we're essentially on our own for 5 years, especially during COVID, where we could hardly even rely on friends and neighbors for a lot of things. It just makes a world of difference to have a community that you actually feel a part of. I don't know that in Towson, yeah, we did have a great neighborhood, and we had some good friends there, but I'm not sure that we ever really felt our groove of feeling really supported and a really part of the community. And part of it was that we never wanted it to be our ending place. We kind of had in mind, 3 to 5 years. That's what we said going into it. And we left after 5 years. And I was ready to go. I think you probably were too. I don't know. So just having kind of that end goal in mind of what we want our life to look like, and we wanted to be part of a community, and we wanted to have family, and we wanted our kids to be by cousins and people where they're just supported all the time.
So reverse engineer what you're looking for, essentially. Like, we knew, hey, didn't want to get back into the circus of it, and if that's what you do want to do, cool, but if you can actually know what you want and reverse engineer it, you'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean,
go.
We both love sports and being part of teams, obviously. And so that's a transition to not have that. Like, it was great going to bowl games with Iowa football. And like I said, taking the kids to practice and they can ride on a gator and, throw a football with people that are 4 times as big as them. That's all great, and there's parts of that you can't really replace with anything else. But at the end of the day, like, what really matters in life to us was more the family.
And for what it's worth, the boys still get to be on the sideline with me at the Centennial games.
That's true. Yeah.
And they have ridden in a gator when Greg and I were setting stuff up for a post-practice lift. So they're still getting it. So shout out you, Weno, for, allowing me to work with you. You talked about bowl trips. What was the best bowl game? I know, like, everybody might think Rose Bowl, but that was one of the worst experiences of my life.
Well, the Rose Bowl is great for me.
The Rose Bowl, yeah, except for you saw when I was getting chewed out. Like, you were literally there.
That was so awkward. Yeah.
But what was the best bowl trip? Because you went to Gator Bowl, Rose Bowl,
Gator Bowl,
the Hawk Slayer Gator. It was the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Like, Tax Slayer just bought the word before Gator Bowl, but it was the Gator Bowl. Rose Bowl, Outback Bowl, and then the Pinstripe Bowl.
Oh gosh, I mean, none of the actual games were great.
Pinstripe,
right? I mean, won. That's the only one we won. It was freezing cold, very cold. But I don't know. That was a great bowl trip just because I'd never been in New York. New York and Christmas was great. Got some really good gifts with that bowl too, and with the Rose Bowl, obviously. The Rose Bowl was just fun because we were there for what, like 9 days. 9 days. And I had girlfriends that were there with me, like, that was just a perfect storm of, you worked with some great guys that had awesome wives and girlfriends too. And I got to just take over a week in California and hang out with my friends. Like, that was pretty awesome. So that's definitely a perk. And we got to do things we'd never do otherwise, like go to the set of Jeopardy and, I don't know, just do some really cool things. Pinstripe was awesome. I mean, the Outback Bowls were great too. Those were relaxing. The Tax Slayer, that was the first one.
The property that we stayed at for there, that was dope.
Yeah. The Tax Slayer game obviously stunk, but that was my first bowl game experience. So that in and of itself was kind of special. The first time you ride in the, what's the thing? With the police cars.
Oh, the charter, yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, so I don't know. It was all fun.
All right. So obviously everybody now knows it's been over a year and a half now since I've taken over Strength Coach Network from Kier. When I first talked to you about this, like, what was your thoughts? What was your fears?
No.
Elaborate on that.
Well, so we had just moved back to Iowa. We bought a house using essentially my salary only, like a minimal amount of what you could say that you had made off your own business.
But I had made it.
You had made some, yeah. So we got that on the line, and we squeaked by like 1% on our mortgage term, I think. Yeah, and then it's like, well, how about these hundreds of thousands of dollars that I just, like, put on the line now? And so that was a lot. Not that I didn't think that it was a good business in general. It wasn't what I had imagined. But that being said, you are successful at pretty much everything that you do. I hadn't seen you fail yet. So, and I'm not sure I ever was like, yes, do it. I think you just kind of put the ball in motion and I didn't try hard enough to stop it. Honestly. But I mean, that worked out, and God had a bigger plan for that.
Amen to that. Let's wrap that up here. Make it a nice quick one for everybody on their first time with this. If if this goes well, it'd be cool to do deeper dives on certain topics at different seasons, maybe make it a mini series. Hopefully this was something good. If you like it, make sure, let us know in the comments down below, share it, send it to somebody else, hit the subscribe button, but appreciate you, darling.
Thanks.
Later.